Welcome to the Stark Reflections on Writing and Publishing podcast. There has never been a better time for writers. More information, options, and opportunities are available to you, but navigating these requires insight. Join Mark Leslie Lefebvre as he draws upon more than a quarter century of experience as a writer, a bookseller, and a trusted book industry consultant to explore and reflect on the writing and publishing landscape to help you make informed choices on your writer journey.
Hello and welcome to episode 31 of the Stark Reflections on Writing and Publishing podcast. I'm your host, Mark Leslie Lefebvre. The feature interview today is going to be a chat I had with Kerrie Flanagan, author of the brand new book Guide to Magazine Article Writing, published by Writer's Digest. Kerrie, who is a successful and accomplished freelance writer, an author, and a writing and publishing instructor, draws upon her 20 years of experience as a freelance writer, taking the reader step by step through the entire process of finding ideas, targeting ideas to the right magazine, writing effective query letters to catch the attention of editors, and ideas for writing and selling personal essays based on a writer's own experience and passion to consumer, niche, and trade magazines. It's an amazing book that I'm already halfway through, and it was a pleasure to get a chance to talk with Kerrie about this new book, which was just released the week that I'm recording this, which is the week of July 27th. We chat about this new book as well as about her hybrid publishing career and her experience in the industry wearing many, many hats. There will be no tongue twister in this episode, as this episode is sponsored by the new Books Gone Bad bundle available from Bundle Rabbit. The release date coincides with the release of this episode, which is July 27th, 2018. The Books Gone Bad bundle is speculative visions of a uniquely portable magic. It's 10 stories and 2 novels bundled together on a decidedly bookish theme. And here's the synopsis for the bundle. Books make the world a better place. They are perhaps the only thing that you can buy that actually make you richer. As Stephen King says, books are a uniquely portable magic. But what if it were actually true? What if there was actual magic emanating from a book itself? What if a book was sentient? What if a book could actually interact in our world? What if there's something a bit more evil or sinister lurking between the pages? What if a book doesn't just open up a world of possibilities to a reader, but instead brings the reader into that world? And what about the people for whom books are a central part of their lives? How do they interact with, or perhaps include books in their magic, their schemes, their lives? How do they protect the infinite possibilities that books store and provide? This bundle of about 260,000 words features works by me, Mark Leslie, Kevin J. Anderson, Neil Peart, Deanna Nippling, Ryan M. Williams, Dale A. Dermatis, Karen McCullough, Don Blair, Robert Jasonic, Kate MacLeod, and Christine Catherine Rush. Book nerds will love these tales, but that enjoyment might also come with a twist that makes you think twice about the ultimate power held by that seemingly benevolent tome sitting on your bookshelves or lurking on your ebook reader. You can buy this bundle via all major ebook retailers, and you can check it out via bundlerabbit.com or bookstoread.com/booksgonebad. Now, a few new personal news items for me to share. Readsy just launched a new series of 10 daily emails on Kobo hacks that I wrote. It is entirely free, and the 10 daily emails are something that you can read in about 5 minutes. And I love this method of learning because it's sort of a thing. You put your coffee on in the morning, you kick up your email, and you just do a quick learn read, and it's not that intense. The content in these 10 emails contain basic info about Kobo and Kobo writing life that are broken down into these short digestible chunks. There's some of the information you might already know, but others may be new to you. And heck, it never hurts to have a refresher course, right? Now, I created the series of email tutorials as a way to share insights and info about Kobo because of my history there. Everyone is sharing info on how to sell more on Kindle, and I wanted to offer something a little bit different, something outside of Amazon. And in the interest of full transparency, it's a way for me to get my profile on Readsy as an author, coach, consultant, marketing expert, etc. a bit of a boost. I mean, the guy's got to live, Other personal news, I'm also pretty excited to have a story out in issue number 3 of Pulp House magazine. My story, Active Reader, appears in that issue. Now, it's a reprint, but I have to say, I am so stoked about this because I remember when I first started on my writing journey, back in the days before the internet, with, snail mail submissions to genre magazines across Canada and the US. One of my dreams was to one day reach the status of being able to be published in Pulp House magazine by Dean Wesley Smith. Now, interestingly enough, when Dean recently expressed an interest in this particular story, because it had felt to me like the perfect tale for the magazine, I thought I was going to either have a heart attack or maybe start humping his leg. Fortunately for the both of us and for our friendship, I did neither, and I just smiled politely and said I would send it to him. Then I had to proceed to walk to the restroom where I had to check my underwear to make sure I hadn't accidentally wet myself with excitement. You see, there's a tip for writers there. There's an old performer's phrase that was used in a deodorant commercial years ago that said, never let them see you sweat. No, for me, it's never let them see you pee in your pants. I suppose the excitement I'm expressing makes it very, very obvious with just how pleased I am about this accomplishment, because it's a goal I set many decades ago. A lot of years of hard work, of writing and submitting and slowly growing my author brand, and of course, of the important networking that I've done over the years has culminated in this accomplishment. This is the result of many moving parts, but one I'm certainly going to pause and enjoy. But enough about me and the things I enjoy and the things that cause me to wet my pants. Let's get on to the interview with Kerrie Flanagan about success in magazine article writing. Hey, Kerrie, thanks so much for being here with me on this podcast.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
So this is really exciting. I have the Guide to Magazine Article Writing, which just came out this week from Writer's Digest, and it's by Kerrie Flanagan. So this is an amazing book. I'm only about 30% of the way through it, but I am re-inspired by the information that appears in this, and I've already made notes and folded pages over and highlighted and underlined things that I want to go back to. So tell me about the genesis of this book. Where did this book come from?
Gosh, how far back do you want to go?
Let's go. You know what? Let's go back. That's good. We should actually go back to something that appears early in the book, and it's your introduction to writing, because you never thought you wanted to be a writer.
No, I am not one of those people who wanted to be a writer from a young age and dreamed of being the next Hemingway or Laura Ingalls Wilder. She was one of my favorites. I always wanted to be a teacher. So when I went to school, that's what I went to school for, is to be an elementary school teacher. And that was my first, just a little door opened into writing, because I was teaching second graders about punctuation, and second graders don't care about punctuation. So I came up with a story to teach them about it. It worked. I got excited, and I thought maybe other teachers would like this. So started exploring how could I get this published. And this was back in, 1996, 97, somewhere around there. So pretty much the only route was to go through a traditional publisher. Self-publishing was really, really frowned upon then. Yep. So I started exploring that and sending out query letters, got nothing. There was no publisher who was interested. So even though self-publishing wasn't very popular, I was not ready to give up on this. So found an illustrator, found a printer, and then I did end up self-publishing it. And it was through that process of getting that book and learning about it that I met somebody who introduced me to a critique group. And while I was in that critique group, it's a mixed genre group. So in there was a woman who did a lot of magazine writing. And I was intrigued by the whole thing. I liked that she sent out a query, she would get a yes, and then 4 to 6 months later, there was her article. So that was when I started really looking more into writing, because the punctuation book, Cornelius Comma Saves the Day, that got me excited about writing and how it could really have an impact on people, children or adults. And I'm not a real patient person, so I liked the speed of magazine writing because I didn't have to wait months and months and months to hear back from somebody. So I just started researching and looking into writing, taking workshops, and learn all I could about magazine writing. And then when I came to my writers group one week, I told them, I said, I think I'm ready to send something off. I've done my research and I have something that's perfect for Better Homes and Gardens. And they looked at me and shook their heads, and you could kind of see them think, oh, bless her little writing heart, her new little writing heart. You don't just go to Better Homes and Gardens. And they made sure to point that out to me. You don't go for the big one. I'm like,
Right.
well, it's a small craft idea. I've researched. I know what section will fit in. I've done my homework. And they're like, oh, well, you can try, but don't get your hopes up. Well, I got a call 2 weeks later from the editor saying he wanted to buy the idea. And I was so excited, dancing around. And I didn't give a big I told you so to my group the next week. But in my head, I'm like, see, it worked. It worked. I got in. And I thought for sure I was set. Better Homes and Gardens, this is it. My
Right.
life as a freelancer, it's downhill from here. Well, that was the only thing I ever sold to them.
Really?
But that was the only thing. It was a small craft idea, but it got me really excited about the possibilities. And it also showed me that if I do my research and my homework and I target the correct market, I have a better chance of getting accepted and getting a yes from an editor.
Okay.
So from there, it just kept going.
That's fantastic. So then what was the next thing that you worked on? I mean, it was obviously something you were already interested in, or how did the next article come about?
Then I just started paying attention to what I wanted to write about, looking around me, going, all right, what are some ideas? And once you open that door and start looking at the world through a writer's eyes, there are so many ideas out there. So many. And one of them, one of my first features for a regional publication was on Colorado wineries. Because I thought, well, I like to drink wine. And apparently we have a whole bunch of wineries here in Colorado. So why not do a little research, pitch the idea, and see what happened. So they said yes. So I got to travel around and visit different wineries and learn all about the vineyards and all of that in Colorado. So once again, it just fueled my excitement for magazine writing. Because I tend to look at things that either I want to know about or that I already do know about.
Right.
But then it gets me excited about the topic.
That's cool. And you interviewed a good number of people for this book. A lot of editors and publishers,
Yes.
and specifically magazine editors.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the common mistakes that writers make when they're approaching trying to pitch an article to a magazine?
That's a great question. And just after talking with people trying to break into magazine writing over the past 2 decades and learning all I could about this, it's that whole idea of not doing your homework and researching a magazine. It does take time to find out what they have already written about and to figure out the style and tone of a article or a publication. But editors get so frustrated with people sending queries that have nothing to do with the type of topics they cover, or people don't understand the readership of the magazine. So when I've talked to these editors, that seems to be the biggest thing. It's like, do your homework, learn about their publication. They have a very targeted readership, and they know who their readers are, and they provide that information on their websites.
And another tip I picked up from the book already was the ads, because obviously
Right.
advertising agencies and companies are investing a lot of money in ads, and the ads are
Absolutely.
very specifically targeted. So they're another hint as to who the target audience is.
If you're looking, pick up a print copy and just leaf through it quickly and look at the ad, you'll know exactly who they're targeting. Yeah, it's a huge tip and a great way to see who the readers are.
What was there a particular chapter in, because this is a very comprehensive book. What was there
Thank
a
you.
particular chapter that sort of surprised you? Like you thought it would be one thing because you thought, okay, I'm going to write this chapter. Then when you actually finished it, did you end up in a place that you maybe didn't expect, or was it relatively straightforward from beginning to end, this whole process?
Wow, that is a good question. And I don't think there was one that took a different direction than I was anticipating. It was, in terms of the content, I knew my content, and that part was straightforward.
Right.
But I was surprised at how hard it could be at moments. Like I know this topic, but there were times that it was really hard, and and I really relied on my writers group and my writing friends to help push me through that, because that it's just a lot to come up with 70,000 words on one topic.
One topic. Yeah.
Yes. So I wasn't surprised with the direction, just surprised at how challenging it could be at times.
Oh, that's cool. Now, you have multiple layers of experience in the writing and publishing
I
industry.
do.
I know you because the first time I saw you was on stage at a conference in Colorado Springs, I believe.
Colorado Springs.
And you were doing a talk on self-publishing, and I was
Mm-hmm.
so impressed with just how much you understood, not just about self-publishing, but about traditional publishing, which was rare. Usually
Mm-hmm.
people know everything about digital and nothing about the book industry. And I thought,
Okay.
this woman knows her stuff. I have to go and talk to her because I'm fascinated. And then I found out you also ran your own conference,
Right.
or were part of a group that ran a conference.
Right.
You self-published early on,
Mm-hmm.
and then you learned traditional publishing almost in parallel. You were learning those
Right.
two worlds. I have to ask, because it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
exciting. I'm excited that you have this book with the world's premier publisher of books for
Right.
writers, Writer's Digest. I've been a fan of them since I was 16 years old, reading Writer's Market. But you also run your own publishing company, and
Mm-hmm.
you have self-published books.
Mm-hmm.
How different is that? This is launch week. How different is the experience where you don't have access to see how the book is selling?
Oh, yes, it is definitely different because I don't have that access, and well, it's still exciting whether I'm putting out a self-published book or this one. They're both exciting. So I'm trying to think what the differences are. There is something different about knowing I have the Writer's Digest brand behind me,
Right.
and all the years of their, and all the people that, like you, have been following them and use their resources, and knowing that's behind me, that was a different feeling, and I definitely liked that.
Right.
And having that extra support. I know I am one of many authors at Writer's Digest, so they have to spread out their marketing time, but knowing I can reach out and they will put up blog posts for me or help in different ways. They, give me postcards or help reach out to different people for book launches. So that's helpful to know that there's other people out there who have a vested interest in seeing this succeed.
Okay. And you also didn't have to find the editor yourself. They assigned an editor to you,
Yes.
right?
Right. I mean, there's that part, the editor and cover and all of that is all taken care of.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Putting it all on the website.
Is one of the other things that you can now randomly walk into a bookstore and there's a chance you're going to actually find it on the shelves, and you didn't have to do any groundwork?
I'm under lots of deadlines this week, so I have not been out to the bookstore, but I am very excited. I have a couple of book launches this week here in Colorado.
Oh,
so
that's exciting.
Yeah,
okay.
It'll be fun to go see the book in bookstores. Yeah,
Cool.
I am looking forward to that.
And I promise you that if I see it in the wild, I'll take a picture and I will share it on
you.
social media, and I'll tag you.
Excellent.
Next time I'm in a bookstore, I'll take a look in the writing section and say, oh, there's Kerrie's book. I got to get a picture of this. And I invite any reader who finds it in the wild to please share.
Yes,
So
definitely.
nothing
share
nothing more exciting than seeing one of your books in the wild, or having someone else see one of your books in the wild.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And usually when it's something that's self-published, it's a lot more rare because
Hmm.
usually it's in the wild because you did an event at that store, or because
Right.
you curated a relationship, or some other
Hmm.
reason like that, usually.
Right.
Okay, so let's go back to Writer's Digest. How did the book come about? It was sort of I think we had to build some of the backstory in, but how did the book end up coming about? Because it's still quite an exciting achievement, and I'm sure writers listening to this podcast are curious to say, how can I have a book with such a
Right.
prestigious
Right.
publisher?
And as I've talked to you before, it was a process. And to me, it's all about building those connections with people. Um,
Okay.
so years and years ago, when I was running Northern Colorado Writers, which was the writing organization you mentioned, so it was an organization I had started in our area to support and encourage writers. So we did an annual conference every year, and there was one year I had a Writer's Digest editor as the keynote, so connected with him. And once I had that relationship, then he at one point had reached out to see if I had any article ideas for the writer's market or guide to literary agents. I don't remember which one specifically. So I submitted some article ideas and started getting things published in the different writers markets. So the children's writers market, the big writers market, and then the guide to literary agents. So started making connections with the Writer's Digest people in that way. And then I had the opportunity to work for them as a conference coordinator, an event coordinator. It lasted about 6 months. They were having some changes, and my position was eventually eliminated.
Okay.
But once I was in there, I also met more people associated with Writer's Digest. And I had been throwing around the idea of writing a magazine book, for a couple of years, because there was not anything current on the market. The
Right.
one in the Writer's Digest catalog had a 2004 copyright.
Wow.
That's a yeah.
Magazines
That's a
have
huge yeah.
changed
Yes,
since then.
exactly. So I couldn't find anything. So I was thinking of self-publishing one. And when I got the job with Writer's Digest and was signing the contract, in there, it said that I couldn't do anything. It had to do with competing. And it talked about my writing. And I was like, well, are you telling me I can't write my books? And I had my self-publishing, my own company, Hot Chocolate Press. So they were like, well, yeah, you can't really be writing any writing books. And they asked, they're like, well, but what if we were to publish it? I'm like, well, okay. Sure. So that opened the door to at least get my work in front of them. So I
Right.
still had to put together the proposal and look at the comps and what was out there and what marketing was I going to do. So the whole thing that goes into a proposal, I still had to send that and have that very solid in order to convince them that I was the perfect person to write their next magazine article writing guide. And they did. They liked it, and I got a contract. And I have to say, one of my best stories. I'm not sure. Well, I'm sure Writer's Digest is fine with it. So I get the contract. I don't have an agent, and I'm trying to figure out how to negotiate it. Oh my, I know, quite daunting. So I Google it, and I find an article on the Writer's Digest site by Writer's Digest that says how to negotiate a contract. So I went step by step using their article to negotiate my contract with them.
Oh, that is such a meta experience. I love that. That is fantastic.
So I think that was quite funny. And yeah, and everything that they had in the article that I could negotiate, it worked. So the article was very helpful to negotiate the contract with
Wow.
them.
So whoever wrote that article for Writer's Digest
Yes.
did a great job. Just like service like you're doing for other writers who are looking at how to
Right.
get into magazine article writing.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. So we alluded to it a couple times. Hot Chocolate Press. You
Yes.
actually run a small publishing company, and you
Yes.
do publish work by other authors. So it's not just a publishing company where you have some books. It's a publishing company where
Correct.
you're actually a publisher.
I am. And there's currently 18 books
Okay.
in my catalog. I guess it's officially a catalog now.
You have a
And
catalog.
yes, 8 different authors, one of those being me, but then 7 others.
Cool. So how does that work? I mean, how do you balance that work? Because you've got
Oh
the
boy.
creative work, you've got the selling work that you're doing, you've got the
Yeah.
research, and then you're putting you're leading the project for other writers. How do you balance that?
That's a $1,000,000 question, Mark. I was hoping you'd have the answer for me because I'm not sure. Because it goes up and down. Somebody described it as different seasons, and that is so true.
Yeah.
Because right now I am very focused on the Writer's Digest book. I'm also ghostwriting. I've added that to my list of things I'm doing.
You're ghostwriting as well?
Yes.
Because you don't have enough on your plate.
No, not at all. So it's just a matter of, if I can, when I block my time, I'm more efficient. If I'm paying attention to how I'm using those chunks of time, and to be kind with myself and know that right now, I have lots of I have the focus on my book launch and 3 conferences coming up that I'm speaking at. So some things are just going to have to be put to the side for a little bit, and that's okay.
Okay.
So I think it's just being gentle and not trying to do everything all the time.
So you do take some time off. I'm witness to the fact that every once in a while, you and your husband will take some time off to entertain out-of-town guests and take them to local breweries or wineries and stuff like
Absolutely.
that. Yeah, so that's always important to have that family and friend time.
Yes.
What are the 3 conferences that you're going to be speaking at? Because maybe listeners are nearby and they get a chance to go and see you in person.
So I'm heading to Mendocino, California next week for the Mendocino Writers Conference. I will be at the Writer's Digest annual conference in New York City in August. And then in September, I will be in Cincinnati, and Writer's Digest is doing a new conference, the Indie Lab. So it's all focused on freelancing and self-publishing. So which is right up my alley. So I'm very excited for those and hoping to have some other opportunities because I do love going to conferences and meeting other writers.
So meeting other writers and meeting people from the industry, that seemed to have been one of the many layers of work that had to be built before you could get to where you are today. Can you talk about the importance of that? I just want to share some of your experiences with that.
As I look back over the last 20 years, it is those connections. So it's a combination of making those connections, and which can be hard for many writers because many writers are introverts, but including myself, honestly. But if you can just take that step and meet new people. So I would say taking risks, whether that's just staying open to opportunities, meeting new people, and perseverance. You just can't, you just got to keep going. So when those new opportunities come up, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but then you just move on. And part of all those opportunity is meeting those people. So by having the Writer's Digest editor come to my conference, that opened the door to writing for their market guides, which put me in contact with the right people, and eventually led to the book deal. But just other people as well. So the woman who wrote the foreword for my book, it's Angela McIntosh with Wow Women on Writing. It's an online magazine for women writers. And early on, when I was trying to establish my freelance career, I met her. I went out on a limb. I was at this phase where I was sending out query letters. I was getting nothing. And so I was getting a little frustrated. So I tried something new. I sent a letter of introduction. I was like, look, here's who I am. Here's what I write. I would love to write for you. And I bulleted 3 ideas. And this is not a technique I have in my book as something to try. But sometimes you just have to reach out, just try to take a risk. And so I did. And I sent her the letter with, here's some ideas. Here's why I think it would be good for your audience. So once again, I did my homework, and that caught her attention, and she gave me an assignment. And then over the years, I've written quite a bit for her. And I know at any time I could reach out to her, and I know she will respond to my emails like, hey, Angela, here's another idea I have for you. And she will tell me yes or no, usually a yes. But that connection has been amazing. So when I needed somebody to write a forward for the book, she was so excited, and oh my God, it was amazing. I have to say, it did make me cry when I read it because it was wonderful. And she's now so excited, and now she's sharing with all her following with the website and with the magazine. And
Oh, that's exciting.
and then even you, meeting you at the conference, and then we've stayed in touch over the years. So opportunities like this to be on your amazing podcast wouldn't have happened if we didn't meet at that conference.
Yeah, that's true. If you hadn't done such a stellar job of presenting on self-publishing, that I went, whoa, this is awesome. I got to meet her. And again,
Well,
I'm
thank you.
the shyest person in the room, so actually approaching you was difficult for me.
Really?
But yeah, I'm an introvert as well. I'm fine on stage, and if people
Right.
approach
I
me,
get
I'm
it.
okay. But I am not good at approaching people. I would be sitting in the corner, but I was like, no, you know what? She's got some really good content. I really need to get to talk to her. But I did get a chance to see the conference you were a part of. I got
Mm-hmm.
to attend that, and I got to network with some amazing writers from Northern Colorado
Mm-hmm.
as well. Yeah, I think relationships are a critical part
Yeah.
of the things you build over time. What's some of the other? So I want to go back specifically to the book as
Mm-hmm.
I caress it in my hands here and hold it, because I still have to finish the book, so I haven't gotten all the way through. What are some of the things that I can look forward to learning in this new book?
Well, you'll learn it's step by step, the whole process of how you go about publishing a magazine article. So from getting your ideas, organizing those ideas, to how to write a great hook to catch an editor's attention, write that perfect query letter, and then how to go about organizing your writing life as well. So keeping track of submissions and understanding contracts. So it hits everything. There's even a chapter for those people who are listening and are like, well, I don't know if this is for me. I write fiction. I have a whole chapter on building your platform using magazine articles. Because people, when they think, oh, I got to build my platform, most writers do not like that because they think social media right away.
Right.
I'm here to tell you, if you write a Facebook post on a good day, a really good day, maybe you would reach 1,000 people. That'd be a really good day. But if you write one article and it has your byline at the bottom that says this article was written by Kerrie Flanagan, author of, that article has the potential to reach tens of thousands of people. And if somebody has taken the time to read the whole article, your writing resonates with them, and they read your information in the bio, they may reach out to you. I've had people many times reach out to me after reading an article.
Really?
So, yes.
So it's not just for the fun and profit, it's for the ongoing exposure
Absolutely.
as a writer. So you're getting paid,
Yeah,
you're getting
exactly.
experience, and you're
Mm-hmm.
getting exposure. And I thought that's a critical one. And I'm glad you mentioned fiction, because all of these lights went off in my head, and I went,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so you think, I write fiction on this particular topic, and maybe I've had to research something,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was science or whether it was a particular travel that you did. And
Right.
is there something out of that experience that you never even maybe even used in the book that you could still use in an
Exactly.
article that's
Mm-hmm.
related to what you do?
Exactly.
Okay, so that's kind of intriguing. I mean, I do nonfiction books as well, so it's very
Right.
easy to write a nonfiction. And at
Exactly.
Halloween time, I usually get people asking me to write articles for them about
Right.
ghosts. That's an easy
Right.
one, but that's
Mm-hmm.
cheating because that's too easy.
But that chapter will take you step by step in like breaking it down into ideas and how can you target who you're trying to reach through your articles.
Cool. And I do like, speaking of that, I do like earlier on in the book, you did break down how different experiences can lead to different
Mm-hmm.
ideas, and you break down the different types of articles in magazines,
Right.
where they're placed. I mean, things that the average person doesn't think about, but go, oh, okay, this is a cover feature. This is
Exactly.
okay. And
This
that
is a
was,
roundup. This is a how-to. This is, yes.
yeah, exactly. And so I guess in the pitching as well, you break down deciphering, the writer's market listings, and how to
Yes.
understand what that actually means in a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
detail than just a graph that says this.
Yes, yes. So breaking down how to read guidelines, because like I said very early on, doing your homework is so important. So understanding how to read the writer's guidelines can really be helpful in finding success and getting editors to say yes.
Okay. And then I imagine for writers who are on a budget and can't afford to buy all the magazines to read, I imagine that's where maybe a
Oh,
local library could be come in very, very handy.
library, honestly, online now has made this process so much easier.
Yeah.
Where I used to have to go to the library and spend a day there and go through, God, I don't even remember what the name of that book was. There'd be this big book that had all the magazines for the year, and I would sort through that, and that took a lot of time. But now, once you do your homework, find some publications you're interested in, you go online and read their past articles. Most of them have it online.
Right. So it is easier
so
to get
much
the
easier.
research done. So you're not spending tens of thousands of dollars
No,
subscribing
no,
to everything.
no. And you can even download magazines. So RB Digital through my public library anyway, our library district. So I can go on and check out digital versions of the magazine. So I can even look at the ads and everything because it's just a digital copy.
Okay.
So there's so many options. You don't have to spend a dime, except for the book. You want my book.
Well, of course, you want to buy the book. Yeah, of course, and a nice hard copy so you can mark it up like I did too, right?
Exactly.
Although it is available in ebook form.
I saw that.
So I guess there's no excuse then for not doing your homework because
no,
so much access to this information.
No, there is no excuse. And what I like about magazine writing is if I find the pitch, send it to the editor says no thank you. It doesn't mean that I can never pitch to that editor again. It's really with books, you submit your idea and the editor says no for your book idea, until you get your next book idea, that is a no, and that door is closed for now. But with magazines, if they say no the first time, well, then I put together a different pitch and send another one so I can keep going and then hopefully build those relationships with the editors. Because ideally what I love is when I get to the point that I've worked with them and then I don't have to write a formal query anymore. I can just shoot them a paragraph. Here's what I'm thinking. Does that work? Yes or no?
Okay. And then, so the other thing that this makes me think about, which is sort of, advice that I always try to follow myself and give to writers is diversify your income. So it's not all just coming from book, obviously income coming from this book eventually when the royalties start coming in, income coming in from self-published stuff, income coming in from articles you sell, income coming in via publishing, income being speaking gigs, right? So you have multiple sources. You're not reliant on one. Is that a valid?
That's correct. So the self-publishing, I even do consulting with writers, ghostwriting, my books. Yeah, I definitely diversify in speaking. So I love doing it all. And I think part of that's my personality too. I like the challenge of doing all these different things.
Cool. So two last questions. One is, what are you excited to be working on next?
Oh, that is a good question. I don't have another book in mind. And for like right now, I'm just like, okay, it's been 2 years, this whole process to get this book. From the time I got the contract, it has been 2 years. There was some turnover, in the companies. I've on my third editor now. So right now I'm just kind of enjoying this, and I don't really have a big plan for something else coming out anytime soon. Other articles, but this is huge.
Yeah, you're going to enjoy this because it was a good trip to get here. You may as well enjoy it. And you do have all of these speaking gigs coming up where you're going to be at conferences, which will lead to other things in the future, of course. And then what's the bit of advice that you would give a young writer approaches you, a young bald guy in the back of the room approaches you after seeing you speak and says, what do I need to do to be a successful writer?
You have to take risks and be willing to put your work out there, and not be afraid of somebody saying no. I don't like the word rejection, because really you're proposing something to an editor and they're deciding whether it fits with their magazine or not. So it's not like rejecting you. It's just saying this idea isn't working. So I always say, just put it out there and give it a try. It can't hurt. And take those risks, meet those people, make those connections, and keep going. This isn't a short game. It's definitely a long game. I've been doing it 20 years now, and I can't believe it's been 20 years. Because way back, early on, I told a friend, he says, one day I want to be the go-to person for magazine writing. I want to be that person that people can come to and ask questions. And I feel like that could be now. But it's taken 20 years. But if I would have given up along the way, I wouldn't be here right now.
Oh, that's fantastic. And that's inspiring. That's a great way to end this interview. So very last thing is, Kerrie, where can people find out more about you, where they can find links to where they can find this wonderful new book of yours, as well as your other writing?
So kerrieflanagan.com, they can go there, then find out about me, links to the book. And then my publishing company, which you can get to from there as well, is Hot Chocolate Press. And that's hotchocolatepress.com. All of my books are available on Amazon, Kobo, all of those wonderful places. So you could just look me up.
Great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today, Kerrie, and congratulations again on the new book.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
This chat with Kerrie was inspiring and informative, and I'm getting so many ideas from reading her book. It's funny, in my personal update, I was talking about how when I first started, I'd been submitting short fiction to magazine markets to build my reputation as a writer, until one day hopefully sell to a market like Pulp House magazine. And this is because back in the day, the going advice to new writers was write some short fiction and sell it to markets, and slowly build that up and grow your resume, and then maybe one day an agent or an editor will take notice when you actually have that history of publishing when you submit the book to that agent or editor. So I'd cut my teeth on short fiction, and in many ways I still continue to delve in short fiction. My first self-published book back in 2004, One Hand Screaming, was a collection of previously published stories and a few new short stories. I've recently been experimenting with a Nocturnal Scream series of short compilations of themed stories, not to mention my 3-story digital chapbook Active Reader, which I recently made into audiobook format and is also included in the Books Gone Bad bundle that I mentioned earlier in the podcast. So I never really abandoned short fiction, but I'd always seen writing short fiction and selling it to magazines as a way to something, to my larger author career, rather than as something in and of itself, or perhaps also as a way to continue to strengthen that author brand. Now, reading Kerrie's book and talking to her has helped remind me that nonfiction can work in a very, very similar way, and I never really thought about it all that much. Although I remember in the early days I did want to try to sell a few articles about writing to writing magazines, and I had tried that, but I didn't work out so well for me, so I went right back to fiction. But because one of my future books is going to be about haunted bars and breweries, I've been working at growing the Spirits Untapped brand at spiritsuntapped.com. And the blog itself, or the website, isn't just about haunted places. It's about the spirit of beer culture, because Liz and I spend a lot of time playing and exploring and having a great time in beer culture. Last night, for example, we took quite a lengthy drive to interview a couple women who run this amazing brewery, Overhop Brewing, and they sort of expanded into Canada with Overhop Canada. And we interviewed them for an article we're going to write for the blog. But of course, as I'm thinking about this, I'm wondering, well, maybe it's an article that could be of interest, a certain angle of their story could be of interest to a beer magazine. So again, looking into that. Now, I've been researching and reading various beer-themed magazines, and I'm looking at possibly using some of the research that I'm doing, like the interview we just did yesterday, not just for the book, for the blog, but also maybe into magazine articles, depending on the angle for the story. And I'm finding Kerrie's book excellent for that. Now, I also like the idea of adding magazine article sales into the strategy of expanding one's own income streams. So you're not reliant on a single source of income related to your writing, particularly since the writing income, at least for me, relies on multiple sources of moderate streams of income. There is no big cash cow. There is no lottery ticket. I'm not making 5-figure months the way some authors are. So I need to ensure there's a steady and ongoing stream of cash coming in from multiple sources. For example, my own sources would be traditional publishing, which would be the advances and then the annual royalties, and as well as sales of stories. So the Pulp House story, for example, and some of the other stuff I'm doing with WMG magazine for the anthologies I'm editing. That's traditional publishing sources because I'm getting paid as an editor for that work. There's also the regular monthly self-published sales that are, where I'm getting income mostly from Kindle and Kobo, but also getting stuff from Draft to Digital from my Nook and iBooks sales that are slowly growing. Getting stuff from Smashwords as well, and Findaway Voices, and Listen Up, 2 different audio companies where I'm making income there on audiobooks. I'm also getting some income for speaking fees. I'm getting income for coaching and consulting. I have corporate sponsors for this podcast, like Findaway Voices, who sponsor the Tongue Twister segment, which we did skip in this episode. We'll be back to next month. And of course, my Patreon supporters for this podcast. Thank you guys. Each month when the Patreon notification comes up, I'm honored that you took the time to show you appreciate the show by being a patron of it. But those are just the various income streams. Among them, I could add magazine articles to that, and I could leverage some of the research I'm already doing. I'm also intrigued by Kerrie's mention of fiction authors using the things they're building as they're putting together their novels, etc., and they're writing lives into personal essays for potential use in various markets. And I'll be looking into that as well. But what about you? Is there something in your own area of expertise that can be leveraged to sell magazine articles to niche markets? Something that's already within your wheelhouse of writing or genre, or perhaps the things you love and are most passionate about, like me and craft beer. It's certainly something to consider, and something that Kerrie's book can most likely help you with. Well, that's it for this episode of Stark Reflections. Thanks for being here in episode 31. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed this chat with Kerrie or my own writing and publishing reflections, do feel free to leave a review of it wherever you listen to podcasts, or share it with a friend that you think will benefit from it. Either one of those things goes a really long way in helping to spread the love, and I greatly appreciate it. And so until next week and episode 32, this is Mark Leslie Lefebvre wishing you great writing and good reflection.
Thank you for listening to the Stark Reflections podcast. You can find show notes for each episode at starkreflections.ca.
The music for this podcast, Laser Groove, was composed and produced by Kevin MacLeod. Check out more of Kevin's great music at incomptech.com.